Am I wrong for not adopting my dying best friend's dog and buying a puppy from a breeder instead? My best friend is dying of cancer. He could pass away any moment. Today, I was visiting and showed him a picture of the German Shepherd puppy I just put a security deposit on. It will be ready to take home in 4 weeks. I've always wanted a German Shepherd puppy, so I was excited to show him the pictures, and I thought maybe the pictures would bring him at least a moment of joy, even if the moment was fleeting. But instead of sharing my excitement, things became awkward. After a few minutes of awkwardness, I asked him what was wrong. I was blindsided by his response. He said that his cousin, who was supposed to take his 2-year-old pug named Horace, could no longer take him, and I could save a lot of money by taking his dog. I looked over at Horace and he looked back at me. Well, he tried to look at me, but he's got one wandering eye that pretty much is always looking towards the ceiling. I could feel his glare with his good eye though. Horace is not a good dog. This is not me being an asshole. This is simply me knowing Horace. He's a little shit, and on top of that, he shits in the house and he tears stuff up. He's always yapping. He's always wanting something. He doesn't even know what he wants. He literally just wants to want something non-stop. He was never properly trained. Overall, I'm not a big fan of the pug dog breed. Their faces look like it's been hit with a shovel. They are always gasping for air with their eyes bulged out as if they are stranded without a space helmet in the Martian atmosphere. I told my friend, no thank you, but I will try to help him find a good home. Really? He says, are you kidding me? You've known Horace since he was a puppy. I know. That's why I don't want him. He's just not a good dog. Wow, you're such an asshole, my friend says. So, am I? Am I wrong for canceling the entire vacation when I found out that my stepdaughter deliberately hid my daughter's passport to get her to stay home? I've been married to my wife, Beth, for 5 years. I have a biological daughter named Jessica, she's 18, and I have 2 stepdaughters named Monica and Leah. They're 25 and 28. Both are single moms and live with us currently. There's been issues about my stepdaughters asking my daughter to babysit the kids. Jessica didn't have a problem with it at first, since this is what she does to earn money, but since her stepsisters don't pay her much, she just refused to babysit. We worked this out by having my wife take care of paying for the babysitting. I planned a family vacation for 3 days and everyone wanted to go. However, both Monica and Leah suggested that Jessica stay home and watch the kids since Beth doesn't want her grandkids to come. They said it's because the kids are used to Jessica and hiring another babysitter would cause issues. They also said that Jessica isn't too fond of our destination, but it was obvious that Jessica wanted to go. They insisted and Beth offered to pay her double, and there was just a lot of back and forth on this until I demanded they stop bringing it up. We were supposed to go last week and everyone had their bags and we were at the airport and it was time to go. Jessica found out that she didn't have her passport on her. We searched her bag, then went home and searched there. Beth and my stepdaughters kept insisting that we go back to the airport or else we'd miss our flight. They insisted that Jessica stay at home with the kids. They even told the new babysitter to go home because she was no longer needed. I refused to go and kept searching for the passport until Monica admitted that she helped Leah hide Jessica's passport to get her to stay home with the kids. I was livid. I tried to get her to tell me where it was, but she said Leah had it. Leah denied, so I threatened to cancel the vacation, and that's when they gave it back. I decided to actually cancel the vacation and blew up at both of them and berated them. They stayed upstairs for a while and Beth refused to speak to me and said that I punished my stepdaughters for worrying about their kids and wanting them to stay with someone they know. I got told I overreacted and ruined the trip for everybody. My brother got my daughter to open up through Mario Kart. My 32 female, brother 26 male was discharged from the Navy 2 weeks ago, and my family threw a party to welcome him home. He is an extremely outgoing person and can make anyone smile and laugh. Because he was stationed on 2 aircraft carriers for basically 8 years, he has only met my daughter a handful of times. My daughter, 12 female, is the quietest and shyest person you will ever meet. Her father severely abused her as a child, and she has extreme trust issues as a result. She only talks to me, her aunt, grandparents, and her best friend. I put her in therapy and she has been making progress, but if you touch her in any way, she might have a panic attack. Her social skills are fine, but you need to get her to trust you before she feels comfortable around you. I got her a Nintendo Switch for Christmas and she loves it. She's on it 24/7 and she considers it a safe space for her. She does her homework early so she has time to play it and takes it everywhere. She became a little too addicted to the Switch and I had to set some ground rules, but she abides by them and we managed to figure out a healthy amount of time for her to play her games. She recently got into Mario Kart and is currently finding out about all of the games in the franchise. My brother has a Wii and gave it to her, and she reset the Mario Kart Wii game so she could unlock all of the tracks and characters herself. My brother was a huge Mario Kart fan as a kid. He had every game of the franchise and competed in online tournaments before he went into the Navy. I don't know much about the game, but I remember him maxing out on his account at 9,999cc, which I think is the highest level you can go. During the party, my daughter was sitting next to my sister like usual when she told him her uncle is really into Mario Kart. I walked over and said she should ask him to play after the party, but she shook her head. I pulled her aside and said my brother would not hurt a fly and he is one of the most nicest people in the world. She agreed after I said I would be in the same room with them, and after the party ended, I asked my brother to play with my daughter and he said yes. She got her Switch and we sat at the table, and 20 minutes later she was laughing and talking like I never saw her before. My brother was trash talking her and she was giving it back to him. They played for an hour before we left and my daughter was sad to see him leave. She told me he's a lot of fun and wants to get to know him more. Since that day, my daughter and brother have been spending a lot of time together and her personality has started to develop. She is talking more and is interacting with her classmates. Her English teacher emailed me to say my daughter volunteered to read a paragraph of the book they are reading and she barely stuttered while reading. She wants to try volleyball again in the fall and asked me to sign her up for tryouts. Yesterday, she came home and said she played Mario Kart with a couple of her friends during recess and she asked them herself. She never reaches out to people, so I was surprised. My brother has picked her up from school while I was at work a couple of times, and she finished her homework by the time I picked her up. I used to beg her to do her homework, and now she willingly does it. She is breaking out of her shell, and it makes me so happy to see. My brother has been a big part of it. He makes her do her homework, then checks it and sees if it's correct, then they play Mario Kart, or they play cards, or he teaches her how to throw a ball. I am a little ashamed to say this, but I kind of hope my brother builds a connection with her and she sees him as a positive male role model in her life. She certainly is not going to receive that from her father. Having my brother back home is awesome, but seeing my daughter and her uncle connect warms my heart. Am I wrong for leaving my sister's wedding early because she kept my husband out of the pictures? My 31 male, sister, and 34 female got married on Saturday. My husband of 7 years, Mark, 32 male, was there with me, and up until one point, it was an amazing event. After the ceremony, Anne wanted a picture with all of our siblings, there's 5 of us, and their respective partners, so we started lining up. When Anne saw that my husband was standing next to me, she shook her head and said something about him ruining the aesthetic. Apparently, her plan was to put one man and one woman next to each other alternately. My youngest sister, 18 female, who doesn't have a partner and was standing on the very side, offered to stand between the two of us so we could be close and Anne's wish would still be respected. I thought that was a great solution, but Anne disagreed and told Mark to get out of the picture. He's quite introverted and tries to avoid confrontation under all circumstances, so he simply complied and told me not to get angry. But it was obvious that he was hurt and disappointed by being left out. Obviously, it didn't stop me from getting angry and I walked away with him. I can understand that my sister wanted her wedding pictures to look exactly how she imagined them, but I think that the idea my younger sister proposed was very reasonable. I congratulated Anne and her husband one last time, but then I said my goodbyes. When I was asked why we were leaving early, especially before taking the pictures, I said that I didn't feel like our presence was wanted. We left before dinner was served, and I took Mark out to his favorite restaurant to cheer him up a little. Anne has texted me since, saying I was being overdramatic and making a fuss over nothing. Our parents have tried to remain neutral, but except for my youngest sister, the rest of the family supports Anne and thinks that leaving early was going too far and that I should have sucked it up instead of ruining her big day. So, am I the asshole? Am I wrong for stealing my sister's baby? My 29 female, little sister, 21 female, Jane, has a 14-month-old baby girl, Sarah, whom I've had custody of since late June of 2020. Jane was divorcing her husband, jobless and homeless. I offered to take temporary guardianship of Sarah so she would be safe and cared for while Jane got her life together. At first, she turned me down. However, after Sarah was dropped off to our mom's house in dirty clothes and an old diaper by a stranger while she was supposed to be under the care of her father, Jane agreed to give her to me and my wife. Now, we made it clear that it would be temporary and that Jane would still have full access and could get Sarah back whenever she felt ready. However, during the last 6 months, Jane has completely disappeared from Sarah's life. She doesn't ask about her, doesn't make any effort to visit her. She doesn't ask us to bring her to visit. She has gotten a job and a place to stay, unsafe in my opinion, yet haven't offered to take any financial responsibility, not even in the form of buying her gifts. She doesn't call to talk to her or see her. I spoke to Jane recently about all of this, and her defense is that it's too emotionally hurtful to see Sarah because of how much it hurts and how much she misses her. Her other excuse is that she doesn't have a car or enough money to buy Ubers or diapers. I told her about how ridiculous all that is. You don't need a car or money to call or text. We have always made clear we'd be willing to bring Sarah to her, and she spends a wasteful amount of money on food and vapes. Even after speaking to her about the things she should or could be doing, she still has made no changes. Because of this, my wife and I have decided to look into our legal options for adoption. Sarah has legally been abandoned, and we only need to keep her a little longer before the court would allow termination of Jane and her husband's rights. Her husband is even more MIA than Jane is. Jane is livid about this and is threatening all kinds of things, but has done nothing. Important information. After I offered originally and before we actually got physical custody of Sarah, my wife and I attempted IVF and failed. We hadn't told anyone about this, even family. However, I told Jane about this on day one just so that there would be full honesty and so that none of this would seem sneaky if it were to come out later. Jane is bringing this up in a very hurtful way during all this, saying that I'm trying to steal her baby since we can't have one on our own. We have one adopted son already. This is very far from the truth. We are genuinely worried about the safety and well-being of Sarah if she were to go back to Jane. And the fact that Jane has essentially ghosted her baby, we feel we have every right to pursue permanent guardianship and adoption. So, am I the asshole?